If you find life sending you into orbit, wondering what planet are we on, you're in the right place. The Steve Batton Show on Freedom 1110, WKQA.
I know some of my friends, I sometimes ask them, what color is the sky in your world anyways? Because of some of the positions they take. One of those friends, though, is not Governor George Allen. He gets it right. And, Governor, thanks again for taking time to visit with us this afternoon. We're really glad to have you on the line with us.
Well, it's great to be with you, Steve, and all your listeners.
So let's talk quickly. I'm going to kind of throw you a little bit of a curveball here. Before you came on, we were talking about the Confederate flag, and nobody wants to talk about that. Governor Haley has called for the removal of it from South Carolina. It means different things to different people. You know, and with this tragedy in Charleston, with this absolute idiot nut job, I know you won't say that, but I can, that sat down in that church for an hour with those people and then massacred them. Charleston has it right. They've shown the right reaction to this when they did the unity chain across that bridge that so many of us are familiar with. That church opened its doors and said, you know, we forgive this guy and we're going to move forward. Governor Allen, I'd love to hear your thoughts on all of this and where we go from here and how we heal from this.
Well, first of all, I don't think he should. The people can personally forgive him. I think justice needs to be done, and if there's anybody who deserves the death penalty, it's him for mass murder.
Roger that.
And it's so vile and hate-filled. It's just inconceivable to anyone that someone could be that full of hate and to do it any place, but to sit there listening and praying together and then massacring people is beyond the pale. Insofar as Governor Haley in South Carolina, what they do with the flag there on their Capitol grounds, that's up to them. I did get to hear some of her statement. I think it was very logical, persuasive, and a strong statement to own it. As you said, Steve, that the flag means different things to different people. It's regional pride, it's heritage, it's rebelliousness to some, and all of that's generally fine. In fact, that's part of history. It is also a symbol of hate to others, because hate groups, whether it's the Klan or hateful people like this murderer and others, have appropriated that flag. And those who had been, and some of those you just learn through life and experience it. For me, it is regional pride. It is rebelliousness. It is heritage. I can understand that as well. I also understand that for some who are fighting for civil rights and equality, that those who were on the side of segregation and oppression and discrimination appropriated that flag. And so I think Governor Haley's effort to bring South Carolinians together and not have a symbol that is divisive makes sense and from their perspective, and no one cares more about a state than a governor of a state, and I know that, and it's just, as she said, it tore the heart apart of South Carolinians when that happened, and Charleston in particular is one of those very tolerant communities of people of all sorts of different backgrounds, and the mayor was obviously, as all of us were, even if you're not from South Carolina, saddened and shocked by such awful violence.
Absolutely. Now, you said something, though, that I want to key in on very quickly here. To me, Governor Allen, there's this petition. One of these groups, MoveOn.org, lovely organization, has started a petition to remove that flag. 500,000 people have signed it. The problem is, this really does come down to states' rights, though, and you have to kind of be from South Carolina and in South Carolina to understand, first of all, and isn't this a states' rights issue, and shouldn't they take care of it on the state level?
Right, and I think that Governor Haley and the General Assembly of South Carolina, as well as other elected public servants in South Carolina, will make that decision. It's ultimately the decision of the General Assembly or their state legislature in South Carolina. And most people don't like outsiders telling them what to do. And nonetheless, I think they're making this decision upon reflection. they want to move forward. I think Governor Haley said the war ended 150 years ago, and it's time to take the flag down. A lot of the use of the flag is really should be in context. But I think that her view of not having a symbol that is divisive for the people of South Carolina, who am I to second guess her views? Because I think a lot of Governor Haley, and I think she's done a great deal in improving South Carolina in a variety of ways, and including attracting a lot of business, automobiles, and even some of the largest aircraft there in the North Charleston area. So I think it's up to the people of South Carolina. She's made that decision. Let's see how the legislature acts. It won't be an easy decision because, as you said in the beginning, Steve, the flag connotes different things to different people.
Absolutely. Another thing that you said a few minutes ago made me think about something. You said that you know where she stands and the challenges she faces as a governor, because you have been a governor before. And Governor Allen, you were one of the best we had. What do we have to do to get you back in there? I don't want to put you on the spot, but come on.
I'm enjoying the private sector and doing a lot of good things in technology and energy and so forth. And so I'm enjoying the private sector. I like Susan and I are still active helping out candidates who we know have those common sense Jeffersonian conservative principles. In Jason's case, it was Madisonian, but that's good enough.
Close enough.
We're helping out folks here, all around Virginia and elsewhere. Because you can be a player, you can be in the arena, or you can be a coach. And so we're mostly coaching now and trying to give people good advice and help where we can to make sure we have leaders who understand that the role of government, and I like to quote Jefferson, should be wise and frugal and should restrain men from injuring one another, but otherwise leave them free to regulate their own pursuits of industry and improvement, and the government should not take from the mouths of labor the bread they have earned. And so those are the principles I still think apply. Ronald Reagan it was my hero, and who motivated me to get involved in organized politics. And so I enjoy going on college campuses and speaking and on the free enterprise system and how these ideas work. When I was governor, over 300,000 net new jobs were created, while there was a downsizing of the military in those days after the fall of the Soviet Union. But lower taxes, prompt permitting, affordable energy, right-to-work states, safe communities, and good, accountable schools with high academics standards, it works. It works. It works in other states. It worked for the nation. And so we haven't decided yet who we will endorse, but I'm going to look at what their specific ideas are in a campaign because I think people are yearning for people and ideas to vote for rather than against. There's entirely too much negativity, not that playing tenacious defense against bad ideas is not important, but I think it's essential that we motivate people, inspire them for good ideas, and if you win running on that agenda, then that's the mandate from the owners of the government, the people, and I want to see people who evince that integrity, that they'll keep their promises, whether it's tax reform, whether it's regulatory reform, whether it's productive energy policy. Those sort of things are what really matter to me.
Now, on energy, that's one of the things that I like about you is you're very, very astute on energy. Talk quickly about offshore oil, wind, and uranium specifically. What are your thoughts on this?
Well, I'm for any energy that is affordable, reliable, and preferably American. Energy resources, we're blessed with being number one. We have more energy resources than any country in the world. Russia second, the Saudis are third. The folks in the policies out of the Obama administration seem to look at these as a curse rather than a blessing. And American energy resources means more American jobs. Whether you're in mining or production or equipment or ports or rail, and for everyone, lower electricity prices and more competitive business costs for production. It means a better quality of life. Heck, with these lower fuel prices and lower electricity and food costs, some of that on just gasoline's saving folks like $1,000 per household a year. And then the government gets revenues. The state, local, and federal government get revenues from without raising taxes, and it helps our balance of trade. As far as us in Virginia, we ought to be able to produce off our coast, and then the federal government ought to do as they did for at least sale due south of Mobile, Alabama, for Louisiana, Alabama, Mississippi, and Florida, and we should get 37.5% of the royalties. And I've long advocated for this, as well as dedicating those revenues for roads and transportation. And the other thing is energy is a national security issue. Look at the leverage Russia has over Europe because of their dependence on natural gas piped into Europe, and Europe being a little bit worried about, gosh, if we have these sanctions, what will that do to our economy and to our quality of life if Russia cut off the natural gas? So we don't want to be vulnerable to hostile, unstable regimes. And then the aspirational truth is North America can be energy self-sufficient, strategically independent within the next, say, 5 to 10 years. And one thing that ought to be done is we ought to get the Keystone Pipeline approved.
Roger that.
Which is good not just for Canada, but also the Bakken Shale in the Dakotas and Montana, and have a more safe and efficient way of transporting that oil, tar sands, if you want to call it that, or bitumen, to refineries elsewhere in the country. So that's what ought to be done. The offshore wind, my problem with offshore wind is how costly it is. And you know, a lot of these folks, they'll fly off to Paris to this U.S. climate change conference, or UN climate change conference, in private jets. Well, you start jacking up the price of gasoline or electricity, the folks who are hurt the worst by $50, $100 monthly increase in their electric bill, they're not those guys flying in those private jets. It's hard-working, lower- and middle-income working families who are struggling to make ends meet, to save up some money for their kids' college education. It's such a regressive approach, whether it's cap and trade or carbon taxes or forcing on people expensive sources of energy. And so my problem with the offshore wind is the costs are so high. And some of the estimates for those that they had off of Massachusetts, where they were going to start right off the bat paying 37 cents per kilowatt hour, when the average in the country is about 10 cents.
Right.
They already have high electric bills in Massachusetts, and so it'd even make them even less competitive, beyond making their citizens pay unnecessarily high electricity bills. So, some of the alternatives, I think we should embrace common sense conservation.
Absolutely.
And there are a lot of good advancements and ways that you can have green energy that actually saves green, whether it's passive optical networks or nanotech enabled materials that are lighter and stronger, needing less propulsion. There's a lot of good things that make sense in innovative technologies that make economic sense, but don't force people to be paying higher prices because that just lowers their quality of life and makes our manufacturing in our country less competitive.
Absolutely. Governor Allen, thank you so much for taking the time to talk to us this afternoon, and don't be a stranger. Let's have you on the show again soon, sir. Okay,
will do, and good luck to you. Congratulations. I'm glad to hear your voice is back on the air, and I know you'll stand strong for freedom, Steve.
Absolutely, sir.
The Steve Batton Show, Freedom 1110, WKQA.